We will have a nice, well-rounded restorative practice this month of June. We are in our asana, whether it be vinyasa or restorative, are focusing on the sacral chakra. So last month we focused on the root chakra. We'll just continue to go up the spine. So what does that mean in your physical body? We're just kind of like focusing on that physical place in the body where we believe the sacral chakra is, and that is the sacral ganglia, which is basically, you could think of it like right below the belly button and the pelvic bowl. So that will be the area that we'll kind of just check in with, see how it feels today. And on a more esoteric or energetic level, if that jives with you, if you're interested in it, the sacral chakra is the center of our essence of creativity, of inspiration, our ability to receive pleasure, to give pleasure, to receive joy, to give joy, that we are beings worthy of these things. And also this aspect of relationships. So are relationships in our life genuine? Are they deep? Are they meaningful? What do we value in our relationships? So that's just something kind of interesting, I think, a little bit extra you can have in the back of your mind as you move through our practices this month. So we will start out belly down. We'll take belly down Shavasana. So my favorite way to set this up is to take a blanket, to roll it up into a tight little Tootsie Roll. Place that at the back of the mat where your feet are going to rest so that your ankles get some support for the tops of the ankles. And then you take a pillow or two pillows, maybe lay that lengthwise across your mat. This is going to support the sacral chakra, the pelvis, the belly, and the chest, and the chin goes right above the top of this edge of the pillow. You can also take another folded blanket to rest the forehead on, or a block or some books work well for that. And so when you lengthen out, it does take a little bit of adjusting. It's been a while since we've done this shape, so I'll walk us through it real quick. Kind of settle in. I'm like scooching back my blanket roll so that it hits the tops of my ankles in that right place. And then adjusting belly, pelvis, chest. So you can see that I have this space above the top of my cushion for my chin, so that my mouth and my nose can just breathe freely. Some days I like a block underneath the forehead. Some days it's just too hard, or it just feels like my neck is kind of being pushed backwards. So you might try like just stacking the hands, resting the forehead on the hands, or again, that folded blanket or towel would work too. Just take a few moments to adjust. I'm going to set us a timer here. We'll be in this first shape for about 3 minutes. And so if you're resting your forehead on a prop, you can take your elbows out to the sides like a face down cactus. You can also take your arms down alongside the body, palms facing the ceiling. I don't really like that on my shoulders. So play with your hand position and however your hands are placed, how does that feel on neck and shoulders? And so once you find that nice place to rest, settling into stillness, and then start to bring your awareness down to the pelvis, the place right below the navel. See if you can start to take your breath there. You might even lengthen out through the breath, take a little bit longer on the inhale, a little bit longer on the exhale. And can you feel the belly, the low belly pressing into the bolster? You might even notice you can feel your heartbeat there. the pit of the stomach. And so just do your best to relax. We just have a few more breath cycles here. And so please feel free to stay longer in that shape, especially if you're really enjoying it. Just take your time there. You could spend the whole 30 minutes in that shape. If you're ready to move on, palms underneath the shoulders, press up to hands and knees, and we'll take a brief pass through child's pose. So hips can just come right back to the heels. The forehead could even rest on your pillow that's there. Elbows soften. On your next inhale breath, come forward into tabletop. And then we're going to come onto our backs for some more front body opening. So we'll check out the psoas muscle. The psoas muscle starts at the low back, the lumbar spine. It wraps around the front of the hip and then inserts at the inner front hip. So it goes right through the sacral chakra. So what you're going to need for this shape is maybe you want to pad the back of your head with a blanket or towel. That's always kind of nice. And then you're going to need something that's going to elevate your pelvis. So block is going to be a little bit less forgiving. Pillows a little bit more forgiving. Blankets and towels would also work kind of like as an in-between. The firmness of a pillow versus the firmness of a block. You could have a couple of those options close by because it's kind of hard to tell what you're going to want until you get into a shape. So we'll start out on our backs. Okay, and then just bending the knees and planting the feet. Just place the hands on the low belly for a few moments. Let your elbows relax to the mat, to the floor. Just breathe here. A little bit of a pelvic rock to kind of warm up, lubricate that psoas muscle and the pelvic bowl. So we're going to roll forward onto the tip of the tailbone. You're going to lift your low back. Then you're going to roll back to the low back and slightly lift the tailbone. Pelvis stays on the mat the whole time. The only thing that's moving is the anterior tilt of the pelvis forward, posterior tilt of the pelvis back. It's just a tiny 1 to 2 inch movement. Get a sense for how the low back feels, how the hips feel. Okay, and then we'll come back to neutral. Just let your pelvis rest. Press down into your feet, and then we'll lift the hips up. We'll take one of our props underneath the sacrum, and then let the sacrum, the pelvis, be heavy on that prop. So pillows, blankets, they're thicker than a block, right? So you'll get a little bit of support with a pillow or a blanket at the low back, but ideally the weight of your body is resting in the sacrum, not the low back, right? So scoot that thing down just a little bit, whatever you're resting on, so that you feel the weight of your body, like if the sacrum were a triangle, which it kind of is, that is center on your prop. That is the thing that's elevated. So it's like if you were to reach down and kind of cup the back of the glutes, they'd be just the very edge of your prop. You can take a peek at me if it's not making sense. We'll just hang out here for a few moments, let the pelvis be heavy. You can kind of move the knees side to side. Even just a little bit of elevation goes a long way. So it doesn't have to be a huge, big, thick block. It doesn't have to be a huge stack of pillows or blankets. In fact, I recommend starting out lower with less height, seeing how that feels, and then if you really feel like you need more, then you would add on. But in this practice, in restorative, less is more. Less is more. All right, so come back through center with the knees. Hug the right knee into the chest. Give it a squeeze. You can wrap your hands around that right shin, and then try to extend the left leg forward. So you're lengthening out through your left leg. Let the left heel be heavy on the mat, on the floor. Let's take 3 breaths here. So a little bit of dynamic movement just to prep the body for stillness, and then we'll settle into our more restorative shape. Last breath here on this side. Now rebend your left knee, plant that left foot, set the right foot back down, both knees are bent. This is your foundational position, your starting position. Okay, that's the second side. Hug the left knee into the chest, wrap your hands around that shin. Give it a little squeeze. And you can add on by extending your right leg long. Let your right heel be heavy towards the floor or the mat. Take a few breaths to check out this side. Notice how it feels. Is it different? Is it the same? Three breaths here. Back to starting. So right knee bends, right foot plants, left foot releases to the mat, knee is bent. You're in your foundational starting shape. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now back to the left leg, extend it forward. You're just extending the left leg forward without doing anything with that right leg. It's staying in its starting position. Check out how this feels. Is it okay on the low back? Is it okay on the front of the hip flexor? And if you feel like you could add a little bit more, if that would be wise, then you would extend your right leg forward and long. So in essence, you're just draping the pelvis over the lift of your prop. Okay, you can always rebend that right knee, so you just do it one side at a time. Okay, or you can take a longer hold with both legs extended. I'm going to set us a timer here. We'll take 3 minutes on each side. I'm going to find a comfortable position to rest your arms. If that's helpful to have that connection with the sacral chakra, hands can rest at the low belly. If you want a little bit more broadening across the chest, opening it across the heart, maybe you take your elbows wide like a cactus. Deep belly breaths. Relax your jaw. Relax your teeth. Can you relax the flesh around the eyes? Just do your best. You might take this time here in this shape to ponder the question of where do I find joy and pleasure in my life, or how do I cultivate joy and pleasure in my life? You're doing one side at a time in this shape. We'll switch sides, so gently bend that left knee, plant the foot, and then begin to extend the right leg. If you're doing both legs, you don't need to move at all. Just continue to relax and breathe. You might pause to consider, where do I find creativity and inspiration in my life? Or, said another way, I feel creative and inspired when, fill in the blank. I feel creative and inspired when, and fill in the blank. We'll come back to neutral. Please take your time. So slowly bend your right knee, plant that right foot. If the left leg was extended, bend the left knee, plant the left foot. Just take a few moments here with the pelvis still elevated slightly to rock the knees side to side. It's not a big movement. It's just a little bit of a massage for tissue at the low back. It's really normal for the low back here to feel a lot of sensation. So if you're feeling a little achy there in that place, just know you're not alone, and that's normal. Okay, so this next piece is going to be up to you. You can either move that bolster, pillow, block, whatever it is underneath your pelvis out of the way and hug your knees into the chest, or you can just simply hug your knees into your chest with the pelvis elevated. I think it feels quite nice with that prop underneath the pelvis, but I'm using a pillow today, so block might be a little hard if that's what you're using. Let's see if we can take the feet up towards the ceiling so you're in this really passive, gentle inversion. Your legs do not have to be straight. Your knees can absolutely remain bent. Right, so sometimes hamstrings and tight hips or tight glutes will prevent you from straightening out through the legs, and this is okay. Yoga is not about how flexible you are. It's really about cultivating discernment, right? It's about noticing what your body's limitations are, what its abilities are, and honoring that and not pushing yourself beyond. I'm just kind of moving my feet and legs around in space, just exploring how that feels. You might do that too, have a little gentle movement. You take the feet apart and feet together even. Okay, and then we'll rebend our knees and plant the feet. Press down to your feet, lift your hips up, and if you still have that prop underneath it, move it out of the way. So we'll set up for our final shape, and I'll invite you to stay in this final shape for your Shavasana if it's feeling comfortable. You can always take a traditional Shavasana just flat on your back, but after we've done a bit of a mild back bend, it's nice to take something underneath the backs of the knees. This helps create some space in the lumbar spine. We just compressed it a little bit. So I'm going to build a little platform for the backs of my knees and my calves. You can get creative at home. I have 2 blocks. You could use books. You could also use a chair. You can place pillows and blankets on top of that. Please have 1 extra blanket or towel handy. I'd like you to add some weight to the belly. Okay. So you're going to come backs of the knees, backs of the calves. Rest that on that little elevated platform, whatever you're using. And then take that blanket, or maybe it's a pillow, whatever you have extra, slide it over the belly. This will be our last shape. And if this isn't comfortable for whatever reason, if there's something else you want to take it instead. Start to settle in. And we have 3 minutes here. So maybe again, you place your hands at the low belly, connect to the sacral chakra. That physical place in the body. And see if you can find stillness. Relax your shoulders. You might slightly tilt the chin to the chest. See if you can close your eyes. Let your eyes be heavy in their sockets. Deep belly breath all the way down to where the hands are resting. Softness through the jaw, the mouth, through the teeth and the lips. As you're lying here on your back, you might ask the question, where or how do I find value in my relationships? Where or how do I find value in my relationships? If you'd like to stay longer in Shavasana, please feel free. Take as much time as you need. If you are ready to move on, just slowly start to move into the fingertips, the toes, give them a little wiggle, a little gentle awakening. There's space around you and above you. You can stretch your arms up and overhead. So if you're coming from this position on your back, you can roll off to a side and just take a brief pause in fetal position. When you're ready, press into your hands and come up to a really brief, comfortable seat. We'll just take a moment to place our hands in a special way. That's one translation of a mudra, to place the hands. It could also be the feet in a special way. Mudra just means to seal something in, which is our intention today, to seal in this idea of joy, inspiration, creativity, and meaningful, genuine relationships. Mudra for the sacral chakra is right palm facing up, left palm underneath the right palm, so right palm on top. Tips of the thumbs are touching, and that rests in the lap. Relax your elbows, relax your shoulders, feel your bones root, feel your spine grow tall. Just breathe here. Finally, bowing the chin to the chest. Take a moment to honor your effort. Honor those aspects of yourself, the joy, the inspiration, the creativity, the relationship that you even have with yourself. And always to our teachers, past, present, future, to the teacher within your own heart. Namaste, yogis. So I think I said this during our last class, but a great way to take this idea of Swadisthana, of sacral chakra work, off of the mat into your life is to journal on those 3 prompts. You could do a fill in the blank. I feel creative and inspired when, fill in the blank. I feel joyful and pleasure when, fill in the blank. I find value in my relationships when, or how, what do I value in my relationships? You could also, if you're not into journaling, have that conversation with somebody in your life that you love and you trust, and you can have those deep, meaningful conversations with. Thank you so much for joining me.